Hi. So I hope things are going well, that you're kind of getting the flow of everything. This is just a real quick video on the research questions to give you some kind of details and a few things to think about. So let me just move on with it. The reason we start with the question is because we're not coming from this place of I know this thing and I want to prove it. I can prove anything. I'm 5 foot tall. I can prove to you I'm tall. Um, no, 5 foot is not tall, right? But I mean, so yeah, we can take things and prove things. What we're doing is research. We're saying let's look at this kind of idea and see what's out there, and then once we've done the study, draw our conclusions. So that's a really important approach to take in research. And some of the keys to it are, being really open-minded, and it's an important thing throughout life because even if you're very committed to something, if you haven't actually analyzed and thought about the other side's point of view, you haven't really considered all of your own. So you have to go through that and think about that to be able to say, yes, I do know why I see things as I see them. And that's just kind of on a personal note, but it's also a critical thinking point. We also want to make sure that we're open to looking to that other side and saying, let me see what their argument is. What's out there? What makes sense? Do parts of it work? Are there parts that it's just like, no way, no dice? And then, of course, knowing about those various perspectives that just gives us deeper insight into our own. When we look at someone explaining one point of view or one side of something, it moves us back to say, well, wait, why do I believe what I believe? What are these reasons and rationales? So starting with the question puts us in that curious state of mind and says, let's look and find out. And then, so we, while you're doing your research, you want to, of course, you're, saying, okay, here's what I think, this and that as you're going through it. But when you're more open-minded, you're looking at it in a wider view, and then you're able to step back and say, okay, overall, here's how I see it, and here's what I think. And then also, that open mind lets us look at new stuff with development of technology, knowledge, science, those other things to consider that we might not know about, other ways people look at it. A couple of my favorite examples are I had a student last semester, the semester before, who was looking at kind of early um, movements like around the early 1900s in terms of kind of labor laws and things like that. And then she came across the Triangle Shirt Factory fire. And that was an event in the 20s or 30s, 1920s or 30s, that happened, and it really changed labor laws a lot. And she became just fascinated with it. So her research, she kind of started in one place, but then she became fascinated with that and found so much that it also directed her down a different path. And that's one of the key things to know too. You're going to start with this question, the topic you choose, and the question about it, but it also may lead you down different places and where you say, wow, I didn't even know about this stuff. You know what? I want to look at that. Or think about this perspective. I want to look at that. So that's kind of one of the key things. Don't be afraid to change your mind as you learn and as we go through the research process. Or when you find something that's a part of what you're researching and you're like, wow, I could write a whole paper about this, then, talk to me, email me about it, and I'll give you some tips. And if that, if that will work out, then yeah, just like that student with the Triangle Shirt Factory fire, you might end up writing a paper about not so much that big thing, but this one thing that you learn about. Um, so it's not, I'm going to prove I'm right. Instead, I'm going to see what the information says, what the experts say, what the facts say, and then I'm going to draw my conclusions. And that's where we want to be. So in order to do that, we are starting with the question. Now, there are banned topics. You've read about those. Some of them are banned because it's important. I know it's important. I've lost over 50 pounds, kept it off for 9, 10 years now. Obesity is an important thing. I'm 5'2", 5 foot. I weighed 231 pounds. That was not good, not good. And just not healthy for me. It's a struggle, but I just can't read another paper on it right now. So yeah, no. So some of them are just, I can't do it anymore, okay? The obesity, the serial killers, yeah, I can't do it. Some of them are things that I'm very committed to in terms of my ideas about them. And while I believe I could grade you fairly, I just don't even want to risk it, right? So I'd rather not even have that between us. Now, obviously, your paper you may be talking about something that's on the ban list as part of your paper. but it should not be your whole paper. So don't look at that list and say, oh, I can never mention that stuff in my paper. Yeah, if it's part of your topic, you will. I just don't want the paper focused on that. And of course, the key thing is that list underneath that of the examples, those are just examples. So if there's something there you're like, that's kind of cool, I'd like to do that, cool, go with that. But let it also inspire you. I mean, it is obviously not a definitive, complete list, it's just examples. Excuse me. So don't limit yourself there. There are so many options. Um, and then what else? Oh, you're sending me two questions. So they are questions. They could be questions on the same topic, and or it could be things on totally different topics. So if you're like, I have this topic in mind, and here's two different kind of things I'd like to find out about it, then cool. If it's like, oh, I can't decide, well, here's my top two, then questions, what things do you want to find out about those? Phrase them as questions. If you don't do that, I send them back to you and say, these aren't questions. It's a very short, easy email. Remember, you're sending it to kwood@epcc.edu. Questions on time equal 100. All right, so do that. I only accept it 2 days late because when I respond to it, I mean, once these come in, I'm like, boom, boom, boom. I get them done, get them back to you because you need the information that you need the approval for your topic. And then I give you links, I give you some ideas. If your question needs to be kind of tweaked some, I help you with that. Usually I'll give you like at least one article to start with. So that helps you. That information that I give you is part of your starting on that next part of the essay, of our journey to it. So that's why there's a real strict timeline in terms of lateness on this. It's because I need to get it turned around to you so that you can move on to the next steps. So let's take a look real quick. And so this is Rudy's. This is the example from the assignment. But, she gives two different questions. How does whitewashing in Hollywood films and TV negatively impact minorities, people of color, and society as a whole? And how are today's extreme beauty standards physically and psychologically harming young girls and women? So when she did this in 2016, yeah, there was talk about whitewashing in Hollywood, but it hadn't really hit a point where there was a lot in research. And that's one of the other things that I do for you is I actually go in and look and make sure there's going to be like research that you can find that's at the level we're looking at for your paper. And so I was like, oh, this is a great idea. And then I started researching, and there was a lot of kind of casual discussion about it, but there really wasn't the kind of academic sources we're looking for. So she ended up going with the other one because of that. And that's another reason to send me a question, because actually I'd talked to her before this was due, and I was like, oh, that's great. There should be lots on it. And I was kind of surprised that I couldn't find a lot. About this time, somebody had wanted to do gender reveal parties. And at that time, there wasn't a lot of academic research on it, and now there is. So I think birthday parties are fascinating, like kids' birthday parties, like how much it's spent on them, what they do. I mean, where that tradition. Like I said, I was raised on the farm, so you got to pick what we had for dinner, and got a cake and a present or two. It wasn't a big deal, but you can see here with Rudy, she does two different questions, two different topics, but also notice with these questions that they're very much like those readings talk about. They're not yes or no questions, and that's important. So they're not just looking for facts either, right? It's like kind of what are people's ideas about this? What do we know about statistics that show us how people are affected by either one of these? So these are questions that really lead to looking at research, drawing deeper conclusions, going beyond just yes or no. And that's really key with those questions. And of course, they don't have to be the perfect question. That's what I'm here for. Like I said, one of the things I do in this response is if that question needs to be tweaked, I'll give you some ideas. What about doing this or that kind of thing. So, my job is to make sure that you have researchable with our resources on the college level, that you'll be able to do it in the time we have. And so that's where I help you out. So overall, that's just kind of the approach we take by starting with the question and keeping open-minded. There's some general advice there for your topic email. So just, as you read about it, ask me those questions. And that way you can ask me questions about the assignment, obviously, but give me your research questions, because then think about them, you know, and think about the readings and the posing a question, and how to write a research question, the readings we've done. Think about those, look at their examples, and think about how those are really looking for you to dig to something deeper. And that's all I've got. So take care. Let me know if you have questions, and onward ho.